Hello everyone, Wolvashkanda here, and today in a book club, I'm gonna talk about a book by Patrick de Witt called Undermajordomo Minor. This was one of the rare occasions when I didn't really know anything about the author or the book when buying it, and it was my not random guess, but to the bookstore when I went, they were having their own system with recommendations. And this was one of the advice that the bookshop worker had. So I was like, hey, yeah, I'll give it a shot. It's a modern fiction prose. Why not to try it out? So the whole story revolves around Lucien Minor, who is a young man living in Bury in England. And basically Lucy is not the luckiest man in the world. He's pretty much what we may even call a loser. So he doesn't have any real success in Bury, his city. He doesn't really have a friend there. Fell in love with a girl, but the feeling wasn't mutual, so he had really nothing to lose in Bury. And basically on one day he got an offer, father priest at their town, who basically recommended him to become an Undermajordomo, which basically means that he would be under Majordomo. Majordomo is well, the person is basically handling all the affairs at the Bayron estate, this kind of stuff in the castle or manor or whatever it is. So Undermajordomo is basically his assistant. And that was the position that Lucy got offered. So, without really having any money in hands, he was seeing this as a great opportunity to finally leave Bury and start his life all over again. And he took a train to go to that place. So he was basically needed to work in the castle of Baron von Ox, and he should have been working under the leadership of Mr. Olderglow. And Mr. Olderglow is quite a funny man, so he is working as a majordomo for a lot of years already in the castle of Baron von Ox. He doesn't seem to have the best work ethics out of all the people you ever meet. And he's quite a ridiculous man, let's put it this way. The way of thinking he had was quite... Basically, he was acting like in a certain cartoon or something, I guess, It's the whole book sort of reminded me of Pelham Woodhouse's works, where he was also making those more or less goofy characters, so we can't really believe that they were in real life. And the whole book was more feeling like a humorous, light-hearted, satirical even book sometimes. So this is probably where the Patrick de Witt actually got his inspiration from. So while going there, Lucy met two men on the train, Memel and Math, who were father and son. And those guys, they stole, I think, a pipe from him. And Lucy really loved that pipe, and he first didn't know that they actually did it, but then he figured that out, and then he met Clara, who is the daughter of Matt. So they were, of course, laughing about him, first not recognizing that they stole something from him, so they gave him it back, and they made this really weird friendship, so to say, and yeah, the whole story looked really fabulous and comedic in a way, it was pretty weirdly written, yeah. Anyhow, so besides all of this happening in that particular part of the country, there were certain revolts or war happening, and Lucy also fell in love with Clara, and she also really liked him, and by also working at the castle as Undermajordomo. By the way, he was pretty much one of the three members of the staff in the whole castle. The other two were Mr. Olderglow, the Majordomo, and the old lady who was basically in charge of cooking and cleaning, I think. But then Lucy needed to take care of a lot of things himself. And the only thing he was asked not to do by living in the castle is that after 10, when everybody's in the bed, he should close his room and sleep, and don't leave his room in the night. So first he didn't know why and what is happening, and everybody were talking that the Baron, something happening with him, and that the Baroness also left. Yeah, so one night Lucy actually didn't listen and keep his door open, and then the Baron appeared in his mad state. He was basically having the mouse in his mouth. Yeah, he was looking with the crazy eyes at Lucy, but then Lucy managed to survive, so it all went fine. But that's how he uncovered that something is indeed really weird happening to the Baron. So what they figured is that so Baron's been writing a letter every day to send to the Baroness, but then Baroness never replied, and something went wrong, and their love was compromised. So she said that she will leave him, and after this, he basically gone crazy. But she never replied, and that was a big problem. So then Lucy wrote a letter himself, saying that the Baroness should come because the Baron is not okay, and that was one of the ways to fix the whole issue. So the Baroness actually come, and the Baron started to feel himself way better, which was nice. But on the other hand, Lucy had his own love affair with Clara, who was also sort of like a fiance to the guy who was involved in the war, and he was basically fighting for his whatever he was fighting for, against whom. But yeah, so that's why it was quite complicated relationship, because she, even though by not really loving that guy anymore, she fell in love with Lucy as well, but she was trying to keep herself fair to the guy who also one day returned, and then Lucy felt abandoned, and yeah, that was a huge shame. So why in the first place Baroness left the Baron? There was also another love affair happening in the castle with the previous Undermajordomo, who then disappeared. Presumably he died. Lucy figured that out by talking to Baroness, and then they figured that he actually jumped into the huge hall from the peak and fell into the water and probably died. So yeah, there was this very large hall that was like this red cold like this, and there was another love affair happening on the front of Memel, where it turned out that his wife got pregnant with the baby from his friend Thomas, and it turned out to be that Meph turned out to be the son of Thomas. So Memel, in order to revenge, he pushed Thomas into the very large hole, and he, of course, disappeared from there and presumably died. Same happened to the previous Undermajordomo, and due to the weird sequence of events, while Lucy being a bit hysterical about Clara not loving him, and then she's now together with this knight, he thought that he will call this guy on fight, and he basically thought about pushing him into the hole, but basically he fell there. Yeah, and then we all would assume that that will be the end of the Lucy, but as it turned out to be, he fell in there into the water, and he met both Thomas and previous Undermajordomo there, who were really weak, and they were living in that hole for many years, and never tried to escape out of it. So there were like a tunnel, I think they were trying to dig the tunnel, or they found a way out, but then at some point when it was already too complicated, they were returning back and just sitting in the hole and just trying to catch the fish that would flow in from the river and eat the freshly caught fish from this river. So that's the life they've been going through, because basically they had food, they had water, they just could not escape. So because of Lucy's character, I suppose, he decided to go full on, and because of his determination, all three men escaped and see the light. And then, yeah, the problem with Lucy is that because of his stunt of dying, he spent in the hole few days, and as it turned out to be, Clara left. I think she left to the monastery or something. And then Lucy decided to, instead of returning to Bari after all the things that happened, he decided to pursue his love and find the girl. Personally, I like these type of books because they are usually written in such a light way. You know, you would see this small film by just reading the book, and the way the characters also being presented as goofy and cartoony. You would pretty much wouldn't really treat everything quite seriously, and especially the way the events were built. That was quite fun. Let's be honest, it was quite a fun book. So I think my recommendation on whether to read it or not is more based on like, okay guys, so this is a really specific type of book which you would enjoy if you're more into like the British sort of light-hearted humor, the way that the books that were written by the Woodhouse, or if you're more a fan of realism, or yeah, you don't really like when the fiction is too fictionless, you know, then maybe not the right book for you, because you need to treat all of the events there quite unseriously in order to go through the whole sequence of the events and enjoy the story. I have a lot of questions sort of like the story and the way it was built, and I think the whole plot is quite immature, let's put it this way. I personally feel so, because at the end of the day, what it teaches us is that it's all about love everywhere and about relationship. But that's a really weird thing for the book to to teach you. Like, yeah, I mean, I get it. There is no depth, depth in the thought in this book, and I think it's still more of the thing for the entertainment rather than actual complicated matters that you would try to uncover while reading this quite nice piece after all. So Patrick de Witt did a fine job in order to create this fictional world, but there was a bit too much absurd in it, and I think that's what he took a lot from, like Douglas Adams or Alan Woodhouse. Thus, I would give it 3 Barons with Mouse and the Mouse out of 5, but you definitely still can enjoy this book. Thank you very much for listening. Subscribe, leave a comment, and I see you next time.